What is the status of the Developmental Assets Initiative? Not much has been communicated, or not as much has been communicated recently, and we would like to know the status. Heidi, you're first.
So, as I mentioned in my open, I've been attending the Project Safety Net meetings for the past year, and developmental assets has certainly been a big part of the discussions that are going on in that group, as well as an intellectual framework with how we define how our students are doing in our communities at the board level as well. Developmental assets came in to our district as a way of assessing how our kids were doing, healthy, happy, connected, and it has been a way of how we describe the work that we're doing in the community based on building assets in our students. There are 41 of them. There are 40, and then there's one extra one. And the Developmental Assets Subcommittee on Project Safety Net takes one a month and makes it sort of the focus for that month. You'll see the banners around the community. You see one at the Mitchell Park Library right now, talking about what is the developmental asset of the month, talking about how students feel in the schools, how they feel in the larger community as well. So that's the experience that I've had with developmental assets in our school community.
And to build on that, in addition, our kids have also taken the Healthy Kids Survey. I also go to the Project Safety Net meetings, but more even than the meetings is that so many community groups have devoted themselves to expanding developmental assets, which is really ways in which the kids connect in the community. So the YCS, the Y, kids organizations have committed to building developmental assets. And so it's been a community-wide conversation. It's not just that the schools develop assets or ways that kids are more connected to each other, their teachers, their parents, to a meaningful adult. This is a framework, Heidi's right, it's a framework by which we can even have a conversation. And that's what Project Safety Net has been working on. It's not the only thing that we're working on in terms of getting kids healthier or assessing how kids are doing healthier. We do have the Healthy Kids Survey that we're going to be looking at the board meeting tomorrow night as well. We're doing a lot in this regard, and part of it is just being mindful of the fact that we're thinking about ways that we can connect kids more directly to all kinds of people in our community.
So the great virtue of the developmental assets framework is that it encourages us to look at specific things that we can do as a community to improve the social and emotional well-being of kids. And that's why I've been focused for the last couple of years in a particular section of the Project Safety Net plan that asks us to do that work specifically for the schools. And I'm talking about section P8. The P stands for prevention, and it's titled Supportive School Environments. And what P8 asks us to do is to look at the schools themselves and look at practices like homework, which is one of the reasons I was so intent on becoming part of the homework change process, and counseling in our middle schools and high schools, and test and project scheduling to make sure our kids aren't overloaded, curriculum to make sure that our kids are able to feel successful and engaged in their classrooms, and to ask for each of those, is what we're doing in our schools healthy for kids and supportive of kids, or is it producing unnecessary stress, and is it degrading their emotional and social well-being? And in many cases, there is room for improvement. The Developmental Assets Framework is a great framework for doing that and a pointer to doing that. And but it's really important is that it points us to doing this work. And I think that's the real virtue of it.
We actually are doing a lot with the developmental assets. It is a framework and a structure that has metrics associated with it. We took a baseline survey when we rolled it out a year and a half ago, and we took it across the district, and we took it across grade levels, so elementary through high school. And we got a baseline. How are we doing? Are our kids resilient? And basically the way the structure works is if you have 21 assets or more once you've taken this test, and the test doesn't ask you 41 questions, it asks you a lot of questions that lead to this answer. And if you have more than 21, you're resilient and you will be a healthier person and more able to deal with stresses and conflicts over the course of your schooling and into your adult life. We've measured that. We'll measure it again in 5 years. And then what we did is we held out. There are a certain number of the 41 assets that are controllable by the schools, and we've committed to them. And we said, this over the next year is the framework that we are using. We've asked each school to come up with programs to address those assets. So this is a great mixture of directive from the board with big goals, and then site-based innovation to figure out how do you get to those goals at your site. There are some questions in the Healthy Kids survey that will give us a sense of how we're doing after a year and a half, but the real marker's going to be in 5 years. So we need to work on this over time in order to make a difference. All of our sites are using the same language. This is the first time we've had a program that's given the same language across every
Thank you.